Amores, everyone. Welcome to Harry Potter and the Boys, a fan fiction podcast by me. Interesting episode because it's neither a proper episode of the pod or a outpost. It's neither. It's a special super bonus edition of the pod, and I actually talked about on this week's episode, if you listened, which I assume you did if you're listening to this, that power listener of the show, Bella, wrote an essay. Of course, we put it out to you guys, the listeners, to write an essay analysing Ryan Shelton's famous quote from when he came on the podcast, where I asked him if he would continue listening or reading the book. And of course, as is now one of the most iconic lines from the podcast that me and Sam bring up a lot, he said this.
You never know.
Quite a curious moment, quite a curious quote, because he says, you never know. He says, you never know, which is, just an interesting thing. We're trying to get to the bottom of the true meaning of this. But we did put it out to the listeners, as I said, to write a 1,000-word essay on the meaning behind that statement, okay? And power listener Bella has done exactly that. She has written a 1,500-word essay, actually, which I thought just justified its own episode, because I sent it to Sam, and it was great. It was also so long, like it took a while to read. So I'm like, well, we can't just read this on the pod. So I'm doing a bonus episode. Bella writes 11th of June, 8:32 a.m. So it was an early morning, right? Hey, Mike and Sam, loving the last few chapters. Really excited to see what the final twist will be. Well, we now know what it was. Here's my essay on the episode that Ryan Shelton was on. Full warning that in the spirit of the pod, it has not been proofread and possibly makes no sense. Enjoy! And the essay begins. It's got a great title. So here it is. You never know. An analysis of Ryan Shelton's episode of Harry Potter and the Boys. Essay begins. Cast your mind back to November 2021. Just for a minute, I promise. Then we will return to the totally non-dystopian present day. COVID-19 was at a peak in Australia. The Cheap Seats was preparing to wrap its first season, and Elton John and Dua Lipa's Cold Heart was topping the charts. But perhaps most importantly, Ryan Shelton was the guest on Radio Mike's Harry Potter and the Boys podcast. In this essay, we will unpack the episode, chapter plot, and hopefully solve the mystery of if Shelton will ever listen to another episode of Harry Potter and the Boys. So what Bella has actually done, which I appreciate a lot, is she's sort of almost interjected the essay with a parody of Bowling for Soup's song 1985, which is a classic song. Now, I thought a lot about this and I didn't think I could do it justice. So at this stage, unless there is very, very high demand for it, I am not going to recreate the parody song. And I've realized the parody song is 228 words of the 1,500 I allotted. So I think it's more like 1,250 words, the essay, which is great. Maybe at some point in the future, I will do the full parody song, but at this stage, I'm not going to. Mainly just because I don't have time, and I think I actually quite like Bowling for Soup, but the singer, Jared Reddick, he's a little bit out of my range. It strains my voice a bit, and because now I'm just off topic of the listener of the essay, which is classic this podcast. But side note, I've just noticed, like, because I talk a lot, because part of my job is talking, and then I do a bunch of podcasts and content and stuff. I've noticed lately my mouth gets really tired from talking, so I need to shut up more. I genuinely think I need to shut up more, which I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about. Anyway, the parody song ends and we get back into the essay. Bella goes on. Okay, now after that short song break, and my sincere apologies for that, we rejoin the action. Keen listeners of the podcast will remember that before Sam Garlip joined the pod as a regular, each chapter would involve Mike and a different guest reading a chapter. Past participants include Tim McDonald, Jack Post, Jackie Hutton, and of course, the aforementioned Ryan Shelton. Each guest is asked about their connection to and knowledge of Harry Potter, ranging from big fans, Garlip, seen the films but not read the books, McDonald, to barely any knowledge of them at all, Shelton. But of course this fan fiction is well and truly far removed from the original canon, and, as the author of this essay can attest, be enjoyed by anyone who simply enjoys funny podcasts and or like sentences that make no grammatical sense. The start is hopeful that Shelton may continue to tune in as he seems genuinely excited to be there. But will that remain true as he is introduced to the chaos that is Harry Potter and the Boys? I feel like I'm doing a reading of a fan fiction here. I'm getting it. I'm feeling a lot of what Sam actually has to deal with when he reads my fan fiction. But actually, that being said, Bella is a much better writer than me. Like, it's very easy to write. It's very easy to read aloud what Bella has written, which is a credit to Bella. Continuing. Despite having no real understanding of the HP universe, Shelton absolutely nails his read of Hermione as we're treated to a rare chapter of Harry Potter and the Boys that features a female character. That is still true to this day. But of course, the boys are also there, of which Shelton also showcases some delightfully committed accent work. This chapter also contains Harold, who I had truthfully totally forgotten about. Me too. It's a real thrill going back to such an early chapter and noticing how characters have changed, or not changed, as well as seeing what seemingly random plot points end up being pivotal to the story. Mike and Shelton are a great duo, and it's fun to see the tangents they go on. A personal favourite is a discussion about the different Hogwarts houses and which one Shelton thinks he would be in. Although this would remain a hard listen for any Hufflepuffs or, and I suspect there are less of these tuning in, neo-Nazis. I'm sure that is a reference to something we talked about, but I don't remember it. I think maybe that Slytherin are like neo-Nazis. That wasn't in the essay, that was a Mike's special comments. The Hogwarts house discussion is always such an interesting metaphor and look into people's personalities, similar to how I feel about astrology and the boxes people put themselves into. However, as a Scorpio, I do not want to be a Slytherin, please and thank you. That's funny. I like that. Next paragraph. There's a few to go. This is great. Compared to the absolute chaos and R-rated content of the future books, this is a really tame chapter, and certainly mellow for being the final chapter of a book. For anyone expecting the usual graphic sexual references, Harry nudity, and sock puppets, you will be disappointed. But if you've been looking for one to show friends or family, especially ones who are fans of the Imperfects podcast, you're in luck. Ryan Shelton is genuinely a comedy genius. Mike's special comments, I agree. As someone who grew up watching and being a fan of his work, it's great fun listening to him try and understand not just the Harry Potter lore, but also the Harry Potter and the Boys lore. This chapter's episode also included a sponsor, which, given the amount of ball talk that takes place in the following books, is decidedly suitable, if not future predicting. That's right, we had 2 episodes sponsored by Manscaped, who I don't even want to go into why that was a terrible idea from me, and I've thought about going back to that episode and deleting the sponsorship, but I haven't, so it lives on. Anyway, continue. Insert sponsor name here if financially suitable. Otherwise, I've included this picture of one of my hometown's local icons as a context clue for anyone who doesn't remember the particular company. Now, Bella did actually forget to attach that image and then sent it later, which was, I'm not sure if that was like part of the comedy of the essay, to be like, whoops, I forgot it, but it was quite funny. It's always funny when someone attaches something to an email or says, I've attached this, and then there's no attachment. Always funny. In case anyone was wondering, the sponsors of this essay are hot chocolate and undiagnosed ADHD. It's also really interesting to notice the difference between having a different guest each week as opposed to having Garlep as a regular. Whilst the variety is fun, and I do like that it gives the opportunity for different explorations of the book, for example, MacDonald has a large focus on all the grammatical and spelling errors. Shelton, however, is more generous and impressed by the fact that this whole plot was written by a 13-year-old kid. Personally for me though, nothing beats having Sam Garlep on each episode. I agree, that's a Mike special comment. His and Mike's chemistry is really enjoyable to listen to each week, especially as a card-carrying fan of the chit-chat. Garlep's genuine interest in Harry Potter means that they can really deep dive into the lore while still managing to keep the podcast accessible for non-Harry Potter fans. An added bonus is the fact that they have the opportunity to continue inside jokes and conversations from previous episodes, which really adds to the atmosphere of the podcast. I agree with that. That's a Mike special comment. Hey, you know what? One thing I want to do, this is still a Mike special comment, by the way. I still really want to do the idea where I just do an audiobook read of the books and make an audiobook for you guys. And you guys literally just like, it's read straight. Like it's read as if there's no comedy and I just read it verbatim off the page. I will hopefully eventually get round to that, but also I possibly won't because I'm busy and I'm also quite lazy. Back to the essay. If you do want that, I'll do it. Popular demand will help me do it. So if you could send me a message being like, fucking do it, Mike, I will probably do it. Continuing on the essay. But of course, this has all just been padding for the main event, the final few minutes of the podcast where, as the fade out music plays, Mike asks Shelton the infamous question that this essay seeks to explore. Now, this is an interesting essay because often, this is a Mike special comment, by the way, often in essays, the main topic of the essay tends to be most of the body of the essay is that, whereas it appears as though the main topic of this essay is actually maybe a third of the entire essay, which isn't that bad. There's a lot of intro and context though, but who am I to judge? I'm not a teacher. I'm not an English teacher. So Mike asks Shelton the infamous question that this essay seeks to explore. Now you've only read the final chapter of this book. Would you go back and read from the start? To which he and the listeners are treated to his answer / power move / not lying of, you never know. Before we dive into this answer further, I feel that I must give a shout out to Shelton for that quote because I feel that it is a phrase that we could all be using in our lives. Bad first date wants to know if there will be a second one. You never know. Will you spend your day off actually doing household chores? You never know. Family asking if you'll be bringing a date to Christmas dinner? Yep, you guessed it. You never know. Will your dad tell you that he's proud of you? You never know. Well, okay, maybe there is just one or two exceptions to the rule. Love that. But in regards to this particular question, we are left with two main possibilities to consider. We're getting into the meat, to the juicy part of the essay. This is a Mike special comment. Now back to the essay. One, that life is full of crazy and unpredictable things. So of course it's possible that Shelton will listen to the rest of the episodes. Or two, that he was simply padding for time as a way to politely conclude that he will be going home and attempting to put this whole book behind him. The cynics among us would probably conclude that it's the latter. But what is this great nation built off, if not lies and promises? Now that's going into a different essay territory of an essay about Australia. That's a Mike special comment, by the way. Back to the essay. The main thing that points to the former is that he seemed genuinely impressed that Mike had created this whole world as a kid, which I have to agree with. Well, actually, funnily enough, as much as I appreciate that sentiment, Bella, it's I didn't create the whole world. J.K. Rowling created the whole world. I just went there. I just played in the world. I didn't create it, but I perfected it. I like to think I perfected it. Anyway, so upon carefully listening to the audio, I choose to believe that Shelton did in fact go back and have a listen. Author's note. I did try to contact Ryan Shelton to follow up on this question, but due to the random nature of the question and the fact that I'm not famous, I did not receive a reply. But maybe this is for the best, as we can now all continue to live in a world where it's entirely possible that Ryan Shelton is a loyal listener of Harry Potter and the Boys. Because after all, you know, you never know. Wow. End of essay. And on a bit more clapping, sorry. A spectacular result. And if there's any other essays, we are very, very open. Very, very open to reading them, guys. So please feel more than welcome to send them in, or anything creative, okay? We love anything creative in this world. Please share it. Share it. Anything creative around the podcast, please share it. You know, the listeners, I gotta say, like, I really appreciate the listenership of this show. This feels like a good time to do this. It's just, you know, the fact that we have a community around this show, you know, we don't take it for granted. We really appreciate it. You know, we've done 2 live, so I keep saying, you know, which is ironic considering the topic of the essay we just read. We've done 2 live shows. We're hoping to do another one soon. And I think for me, just seeing you all show up for the live shows and stuff has been genuinely one of the greatest honors of my life. You know, that I created this thing and, you know, now we get to do it in front of you people. It's been amazing. So, you know, it feels like a good time to stop and say thank you to all of you for listening to this show. It means the world to me. I know it means a lot to Sam. I'm not going to put words in his mouth and say it means the world. He can confirm and or deny that. But no, it genuinely means so much. And you guys listening is the reason we do it. Or at least the reason I do it. Again, can't speak for Sam. But thank you, Bella. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hey, chuck us some money on the Patreon, patreon.com/Harry Potter and the Boys if you like the pod. But for now, I will get going, and we will be back with another episode next week. Send in your owls, send in everything. You know what to do. That is it. How do I finish these? Goodbye, Hamora.
You know, you never know.